Hey, what's going on, guys? It is your boy Anok from Anok Gaming, and welcome back to a Legends of Legends video. I am alone, as you can see. I do not have my co-host, Keldon, with me, or Darth Vex, as he's also known. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing these solo. Anyway, let's just jump right into it, shall we? I think that is just a good idea. Alright. We're going to start off strong, alright, with Akroma, Angel of Wrath. She is an 8 mana, 5 colorless, 3 white, Angel Legend. She has Flying, First Strike, Trample, Haste, Protection from Black, Protection from Red. Attacking doesn't cause her to tap, so she also has Vigilance. She's also a 6/6. This is pretty darn good. She's not only a big body, she also makes sure there's a large likelihood that she's not going to die from combat. And not only that, she has protection from 2 different colors, which means they can't even block her. And if she decides to block because she has Vigilance, she can take all of their damage. And she has Trample, so it's not like they can just chump block her in the air. And she has Haste, so the second she comes down, she can attack. All in all, I think that Akroma is an A. Next up, we have Mistform Ultimus? Yeah, Ultimus. They are a 3/3 illusion legend for 4 mana, 3 colorless, and a blue. And their text says, Mistform Ultimus is every creature type. Mistform Ultimus may attack as though it weren't a wall. Oh, I see why that. Okay, so back then, walls didn't have defender. They were just walls. They couldn't attack. So if Mistform Ultimus is a wall, that means it also can't attack. So that's why they had to include that. Overall, I say this is an F commander. Next up, we have Phage the Untouchable. She is a 4/4 minion legend for, I bet you can't guess, 7 mana. Okay, 7 mana. 3 colorless and 4 black. Holy heck. When Phage the Untouchable comes into play, if you don't play it from your hand, you lose the game. So you can't cast this from the command zone. Whenever Phage deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. It can be regenerated. So she has Death Touch. Okay. Whenever Phage deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Well, if the first ability wasn't a thing, I would say she would be like an A tier commander, maybe even S. But because you can't even play her from the command zone, you have to ensure that you have a card that allows you to put her from the command zone into your hand. I'm actually going to give her an F. However, I'm sure you could find a weird way to cast her and give your opponent's copies first. I'm sure there's a weird combo. So in that situation, I would probably give her a C. But only in that situation. Next up, guys, we have Blackwing the Risen. This is a 4/4 dragon legend for 7 mana, 3 colorless, 2 black, and 2 red. This dragon legend has flying, and when Bladewing the Risen comes into play, you may return target dragon card from your graveyard to play. You may pay a black and a red. All dragons get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a very strong commander. It is revival on the commander. That is awesome. And not only that, it can buff all of your dragons, and that's not a tap ability, so it can do it as soon as it enters. Create infinite black and red mana. Boom, you're good to go. You have a board full of infinite dragons that probably all have flying. GG, that is a god tier commander. Next up, we have Corona. Not the Corona you're thinking of, but a better version. Not the virus, but the commander. Corona, False God. She is a 5/5 legend, doesn't have any other kind of creature type, and she costs Wooburg and 1. That is 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, and 1 green. This 5/5 legend has haste. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player untaps Corona False God and gains control of it. Whenever Corona attacks, creatures of the type of your choice get +3/+3 until end of turn. This is a very weird commander. It passes itself around at the beginning of each player's upkeep. And so if you're dealing with a bunch of tribal decks, the whole table's just screwed. This is just anti, but also pro-tribal at the same time. What tribe do you build with this as your commander? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. So, I have seen her get played, but it was in more of a chaosy 5-color chaos deck. Overall, I don't think she's very good. So, I personally, your opinion may differ, I'm going to rate her as a B. Next up, we have Sliver Overlord. This Sliver Mutant Legend is a 7/7 for Wooburg. A white, blue, black, red, and green is its casting cost. It says, pay 3 of any color. Search your library for a Sliver card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. If that's not all, the creature has another ability. Pay 3 colorless, gain control of target Sliver. So, the main goal of this deck is you're playing Sliver Tribal, but you want to create infinite mana to use that search ability as many times as possible, or in this case, infinitely. Worst comes to worst, you use cards to turn all of your opponent's creatures into slivers and steal them all as well. Pretty disgusting. My buddy now plays a Sliver deck. He used to play the first Sliver as his commander. Now he plays Sliver Overlord because he goes infinite, searches every Sliver in his deck, or more specifically Morphons the Boundless, which allows him to cast every Sliver in his deck for pretty much free, if not completely free. This commander is broken, and I will be putting it at God tier level. Next up, we have Glissa, Sunseeker. She is a 3/2 elf legend for 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 green. She has First Strike. She also has Tap, destroy target artifact if its converted mana cost is equal to the amount of mana in your mana pool. This is a really weird commander, and it's very specific. Not only can it only destroy artifacts, it can also only destroy artifacts that are in your mana pool, or that have converted mana cost equal to your mana that is in your mana pool. And on top of that, she has to tap for it, which means she can only really do it once per turn unless you have other things that give her multiple activations. She's not very good. I'm putting her at a D. Next up, we have Bosch, Iron Golem. This Golem legend is an artifact creature. It is also a 6/7 for 8 colorless mana. It has Trample, and its next ability is a little weird, because you see, it has pay 3 colorless and a red, which makes it a red commander. But also, that red almost looks black and white, almost looks gray on the card. I don't know why they did that, no idea. Anyway, its ability says, pay 3 in the red, sacrifice an artifact. Bosch Iron Golem deals damage equal to the sacrifice artifact's converted mana cost to target creature or player. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty decent ability. I could see some disgusting things that you can do with this. There are some pretty high-costed artifacts. And also with red, as long as you run a couple of goblins, you can create infinite mana pretty easily, which is also disgusting. Overall, though, I think it's a pretty mid commander, so I'm going to be putting it at a B tier. Alright guys, that is it for 2003. I hope you enjoyed that 2003 section. We will be moving swiftly and quickly on to the year 2004. In the year 2004, we see many great commanders, but none as crazy as these first few. Just kidding. They're all pretty not great. The first one is Slowbad, Goblin Tinkerer. It is a 1/2 Goblin Artificer legend that costs 1 of any color and red. They have an ability. Sacrifice an artifact. Target artifact becomes indestructible until end of turn. Overall, I think this is a pretty bad commander unless you have some really powerful artifacts that you're wanting to keep safe and you don't already have an artifact that gives all your artifacts indestructible. I'm going to be rating this commander really low. I'll be rating it at D tier. Next up, we have Memnarch. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm assuming that's correct. Memnarch is a wizard legend. Weird. It's a 4/5 for 7 colorless mana, and this wizard legend has 2 abilities. The first one is pay 1 and pay 2 blue. Target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. Then you may pay 3 colorless, or of any color, and a blue. Gain control of target artifact. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Editor Dylan here. So when ranking this dude, I put him in an A, but for some reason, this part of the video seems to be corrupt, so I'm going to test this out to see if this works, and if it does, then cool, you're watching the video, and if it doesn't, well, then it doesn't. Anyway, yeah, this guy got an A. Next up, we have Raksha, Golden Cub. This 3/4 Cat Soldier legend costs 7 mana, 5 of any color, and 2 white. It has Vigilance. And it also says, as long as Raksha is equipped, cats you control get +2/+2 and have double strike. So what you're going to be wanting to do is play cat tribal, but with an equipment sub-theme. Overall, I think his abilities are pretty mid, and the deck doesn't look great in general, especially during this time. Overall, I'm going to be rating this commander, I don't know, what do you think? I'm thinking probably a C. Yeah, Raksha, you get a C. Next up, we have a dragon that I can't pronounce the name of, so we're going to try our best. Ryusi, the Fallen Star. I want to get into that Ryusi, just kidding. It is a 5/5 dragon spirit for 6 mana, 5 colorless and 1 red. It has flying, and it also says when this is put into the graveyard from play, it deals 5 damage to each creature without flying. Overall, pretty mid, pretty mediocre, if I do say so myself. I'm gonna put it. I mean, it's a big body that can fly, and it is a board wipe, I guess. This is hard. I'm gonna put this one at a B. Ryusi, you get a B. Next up, we have Bushy Tenderfoot. This is a 1 mana 1/1 human soldier that says when a creature dealt damage by Bushy Tenderfoot this turn is put into the graveyard, flip Bushy Tenderfoot. When it's flipped over, it becomes Kenzu, the Hard-Hearted. It is a 3/4 human samurai with double strike and Bushido 2. Bushido is when this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So when this blocks or becomes blocked, it becomes a 5/6. Honestly, overall, I would say pretty mid. I would rate this a C at best. But it's not at best, so I'm going to give it a D. Next up, we have 8.5 Tails. 8.5 Tails is a 2/2 for 2. They are a Fox Cleric, and you pay 2 white to cast this. They have 2 abilities. The first one is pay 1 of any color and a white. Target permanent you control gains protection from white until end of turn. Weird. Its next ability is pay 1 of any color. Target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. Ah, there's the kicker. So, for 3 mana, you can give your stuff protection from anything. Honestly, I'm gonna give it a C. Next up, we have Hikari, Twilight Guardian. This is a 4/4 spirit for 5 mana, 3 of any color, and 2 white. Hikari has flying, and it says when you play a spirit or arcane spell, which, by the way, arcane spells aren't very relevant nowadays. They might have been back then. There were quite a few that came out in this set. Anyway, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may remove Hikari Twilight from the game, or Twilight Guardian from the game. If you do, return it to play under its owner's control at the end of turn. F, it's a really bad blink ability. Next up, we have our good boy, Isamaru. Isamaru, Hound of Konda. It is a 2/2 for 1. It is a hound. It has no abilities. It has no abilities. So I will give it F. Next up, we have Kitsune Mystic. This is a 4-drop, 3 of any color, and a white for a 2/3 Fox Wizard. It says at the end of turn, if Kitsune Mystic is enchanted by 2 or more enchantments, flip it. Its other side is a 4/5 Fox Wizard called Autumn Tail Kitsune Sage. It has an ability. Pay 1. Move target enchantment enchanting a creature to another creature. This is a very interesting mono-white enchantress commander. Do I think that she's a really good commander? Not really. However, I think this could be interesting in the 99 if you get it to flip. If you don't get it to flip, not very good. So overall, I'm going to rate this commander C at best. Next up, we have Konda, Lord of Iganjo. This is a 3/3 human samurai for 7 mana, 5 of any color, and 2 white. What's a 3/3 doing for 7 mana? Well, let me tell you, it has vigilance. By the way, that's very nice that they finally made it a key word. Only took them till 2004. Anyway, this has vigilance. It also has Bushido 5. When this blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +5/+5 until end of turn. So it becomes an 8/8 whenever blocked or blocking. Then it says, Kodana, Lord of Inganjo, is indestructible. So it cannot die from destroy or combat. Overall, I don't think this is a very good commander, because even at best, it's being blocked, and it's an 8/8. Ooh, interesting, cool. I don't know. F. How do you like them apples? Next up, we have Masako, the humorless. The humorless, there you go. I can English. She is a 2/1 human advisor for 3 mana, 2 of any color, and 1 white. You may play Masako the Humorless anytime you can play an instant, so she has flash. Then it says, tapped creatures you control may block as though they were untapped. Interesting. So she's a combat trick, but not the cool kind. I guess she's cool because that makes her unique. This is very interesting. So if you were to play her in a White Weenies deck, she's mediocre, right? She just makes all your dudes into little chump blockers. But if you were to play this in some, I don't know, maybe Spirit deck, where you get a bunch of spirits with big butts that can block really well, and then you just swing out at your opponents, and then you don't have to worry about the crackback. No, but if she's in the command zone, then they know that the crackback's coming. I'm gonna give her a B. Next up, we have Myojin of Cleansing Fire. Myojin is a 4/6 spirit for 8 mana. 5 of any color, and 3 white. Myojin of Cleansing Fire comes into play with a divinity counter on it if you played it from your hand, which you won't be because it's your commander. Myojin of Cleansing Fire is indestructible as long as it has that divinity counter. Remove a divinity counter to destroy each other creature. Cool. So if you can somehow bring Myojin of Cleansing Fire to your hand and then cast it, this becomes really good. But if you can't, I'd give it F. Next up, we have Nagao, Bound by Honor. It is a 3/3 human samurai for 4 mana, 3 of any color, and 1 white. It has Bushido 1, so it gets +1/+1 if blocked or blocking. Then it says, whenever Nagao, Bound by Horror, attacks samurai you control, get +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a lord for 4 mana. Honestly, it's pretty mediocre. I'm gonna put it at a D. Next up, we have Sensei, Golden Tail. It is a 2/1 Fox Samurai for 2 mana, 1 of any color, and 1 white. It has Bushido 1, so if it becomes blocked or is blocking, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It also has an ability to pay 1 of any color, a white, and tap it. Put a training counter on target creature. That creature gains Bushido 1 and becomes a samurai in addition to its other types. Play this ability only at a time you can play a sorcery. I'm going to put this in D. Next up, we have Teikenu, Samurai General. It is a 3/3 human samurai for 6 mana, 5 of any color, and 1 white. It has Bushido 2. That means whenever it becomes blocked or blocking, it gets +2/+2 until the turn. Each other samurai you control gets +1/+1 for each point of Bushido it has. So, every other samurai that's attacking gets double the Bushido, which I think is pretty cool. I don't think I need to explain this one, so I think I'm just going to give it a C and move on with my day. Next up, we have Yosi, the Morning Star. This is a 5/5 Dragon Spirit for 6 mana, 4 of any color and 2 white, and it has flying. It also says, when this is put into a graveyard from play, target player skips his or her next untap step. Tap up to 5 target permanents that player controls. So it's like a weird stacks piece that has to die in order for it to get its stacks. I'm going to give this a B because I can see its potential, but I also can see how it's not great. Next up, we have one of my favorite commanders of all time, and that is Azami, Lady of Scrolls. She is a 0/2 human wizard for 5 mana, 2 of any color and 3 blue. She has 1 ability and 1 ability only, and that is to tap an untapped wizard you control to draw a card. This, in my opinion, is a god tier commander. She provides so much value in the command zone as long as you're playing a wizard tribal deck. And worst comes to worst, you tap her and you draw a card the turn she comes in, right? Because it's not a tap ability, so she can do it at instant speed. She doesn't have to wait for summoning sickness. She can just do it. So worst comes to worst, she adds a card to your hand. This is the absolute floor. So, overall, I give her god tier. Next up, we have Hisoka Minamo Sensei. Anyway, he is a 1/3 human wizard for 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 blue. He has 1 ability and 1 ability only, that is pay 2 and a blue, discard a card. Counter target spell if it has the same converted mana cost as the discarded card. So, at best, you're paying 3 to lose a card in your hand and to counter a spell. At worst, you don't do anything. I think this is a C tier commander. Next up, we have Jushi Apprentice. This is a 1/2 human wizard that has an ability, right? But before we get to the ability, you may pay 1 of any color and 1 blue to cast this card. Now for that ability. 2 of any color and 1 blue, tap it, draw a card. If you have 9 or more cards in your hand, flip Jushi. This better be good, because honestly, that ability is pretty garbo. It flips over into Tomoya the Revealer, a 2/3 human wizard with the ability, pay 3 of any color, 2 blue, tap. Target player draws X cards, where X is the number of the cards in your hand. I'm going to give this commander a D. The reason for that is it's not very good, and there's a better wizard that draws you way more cards in this set. However, this is really good in that deck's 99. Next up, we have Kiga, or Keels as I like to call him. Kiga, the Tide Star, is a 5/5 Dragon Spirit for 6, 5 of any color, and 1 blue. It has flying, and when this card is put into a graveyard from play, gain control of target creature. While that is a funny ability, it's not very good. In my opinion, it's pretty bad, and I'm going to put it at an F. Next up, we have Meloku, the Clouded Mirror, a 2/4 Moonfolk Wizard for 5 mana, 4 of any color and 1 blue. She has flying. She also has pay 1, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and put a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying into play. So for 1 mana, you may return a land you control and create a 1/1. Okay. Overall, I think she's pretty bad. I'm going to put her at a D. Next up, we have Myojin of Seeing Winds. It's a 3/3 spirit for 8 mana, 7 of any color, 3 blue. It has the same problem as the last one had. When this comes into play, it comes into play with a divinity counter if it was cast from your hand. Here's the funny joke. It's not going to be. unless you have a way to add it to your hand. Then it says it has indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter, and you may remove a divinity counter from this card to draw a card for each permanent you control. I'm going to put it at F, because we're not going to be casting it from our hand. Next up, we have Student of Elements. It is a 1/1 human wizard for 2 mana, 1 and a blue. When Student of Elements has flying, flip it. What? Okay. And it flips into Tobita, Master of Winds. Creatures you control have flying. F. I'm not going to go into that. Next up, we have the Unspeakable. The Unspeakable what? I don't know. Just the Unspeakable. He who shall not be named. It is a 6/7 spirit with flying and trample, and it costs 9 mana, 6 of any color, and 3 blue. It better have a pretty damn good ability to be costing 9 mana. It says, whenever the Unspeakable deals damage to a player, you may return target arcane card from your graveyard to your hand. I'm going to give this a D, because it's a really big body with flying and trample, and it's alright if you built an arcane deck. Next up, and forgive me if I mispronounce this name, we have Yuio. Silent Prophet. It is a 4/4 Moonfolk wizard. By the way, wizards bring back that creature type, Moonfolk. It's pretty freaking cool. Anyway, it is a Moonfolk wizard. Okay, it is a 4/4 for 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 blue. It has flying. It also has pay 2, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand, copy target, insert a sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is a really cool commander. Problem is you have to have a lot of lands to make this really good. Overall, I give her a C. Next up, we have He Who Hungers. Who is He Who Hungers? I don't know. But what I do know is that he is a 3/2 spirit for 5 mana, 4 of any color, and 1 black. He has flying, and he also has pay 1, sacrifice a spirit. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. Choose a card from it. That player discards that card. Plays this ability only time you can cast a sorcery. Okay. It also has Soul Shift 4. Don't know what that is. Let me Google it real quick. Soul Shift 4 is interesting. So Soul Shift is a triggered ability on some spirit creatures found in the Kamigawa block. This ability allows a player to return a spirit card of mana value no greater than the Soul Shift number from their graveyard to their hand when the Soul Shift creature dies. With the exception of Promised Kanushi, a human druid, all Soul Shift cards have mana value 1 greater than their Soul Shift number. So, this says, when it dies, return a spirit card with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to your hand when this dies. After having read the whole card and now knowing what everything on this card does, it's a pretty good card. It has removal, or it has like a sacrifice outlet if you want to build a sacrifice deck. It has the ability to make your opponents discard their meanest cards, and it also has an ability when it dies. So if they kill it, as long as it's not exiled, you get the ability. So that's pretty darn cool. Overall, I'm thinking He Who Hungers is an A tier commander, bordering on S tier. Next up, we have Horobi, Death's Veil. This is a 4/4 spirit for 4 mana, 2 of any color, and 2 black. It has flying, and whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, destroy that creature. So what you're going to want to do to make this deck the most optimized it can be is run a bunch of cards that target your opponent's creatures at instant speed. And it doesn't matter what the targets do because they're going to be getting destroyed. However, this is a double-edged sword. If your stuff gets targeted, it will also be destroyed. So what you're going to want to also do is run Death Protection, or things that make it harder for your opponents to kill your things, or less likely to. Or worse comes to worse, you can run, nowadays, a Chroma's Memorial, which gives all your permanents indestructible and a whole bunch of other abilities. So if you can give them indestructible, then it doesn't matter what your opponents do. So, yeah. Overall, I'm saying this is a B-tier commander. Next up, we have Iname, or Iname, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Death Aspect. This is a 4/4 spirit for 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 black. It says, when Iname Death Aspect comes into play, you may search your library for any number of creature or of spirit cards and put them into your graveyard if you do shuffle your library. So you play this and you go get every single spirit card from your deck into your graveyard. Ooh. Ooh, okay. And then you'd want to play a spell that revives all the creatures of one type or all the creatures from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Ooh. But you also want to give them exile protection. You know what? This commander is pretty cool and I really like it, so I think I'm going to give it an A. Next up, we have Kiku, Knight's Flower. This is a 1/1 human assassin for 2 black. And it has an ability, pay 4, which is 2 of any color and 2 black. Tap it. Target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. F. Next up, we have Kokusho, the Evening Star. This is a 5/5 dragon spirit for 6 mana, 4 of any color and 2 black. It has flying, and when Kokusho, the Evening Star, is put into a graveyard from play, each opponent loses 5 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So what you're going to want to do to make this deck the best it can possibly be is have this in the command zone, play it as early as you possibly can, probably around, well, I guess if you're playing today's Magic, turn 1, but more often than not, probably around turn 3, maybe turn 2 at the absolute earliest if you're really lucky. And you play this, and your whole deck focuses on sacrificing your commander and reviving your commander, and never letting it go to the command zone. You're going to want instant speed revival, and you're going to want instant speed sacrifice, so you can make sure that Kokusho is never getting killed by your opponent's stuff, like exiled, and never getting exiled from the graveyard. And you want this to keep going back and forth. You're going to want to have it. You're going to want to run stuff like Crypt Ghast. You're going to want to like just power through, create as much mana as possible, create as much sacrifice as possible, create as much revivification as possible, and you have a pretty darn good commander on your hands. If you just revive this 8 times, worst comes to worst, you have your opponents on an 8-turn clock and it kills them. Or you can be running other things that ping your opponents when your creatures die, so it puts them on a faster clock. Overall, I think this is a great B-tier commander. Next up, we have Kuro, Pit Lord. This creature is a 9/9 demon spirit, and it costs 9 mana. It is 6 of any color and 3 black, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this card unless you pay 4 black. Pay 1 life, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. I'm going to give this D. It's not very good. Next up, we have one of my favorite commanders of all time, and that is Maro Nar. It's a 2/3 rat rogue for 5 mana, 3 of any color, and 2 black, and it says, all rats have fear. If you don't know what fear is, that means it can only be blocked by black or artifact creatures. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Then it also says tap, sacrifice a rat. Put X 1/1 rat or black rat creature tokens into play, where X is the number of rats you control. All you do with this commander is vomit out rats and kill your opponents with the plague. This, in my opinion, is an S tier commander. Next up, we have Myojin of Knight's Reach. It has the same problem as all the other Myojin, where if it comes into play, if you cast it from your hand, it comes into play with a divinity counter. It has indestructible if it has a divinity counter. You may remove a divinity counter to make each opponent discard his or her hand. F. Cool. Thanks. Moving on. Next up, we have Nezumi Grave Robber. It is a 2/1 rat rogue for 1 of any color and a black. It also has the ability to pay 1 of any color and a black to remove target card in an opponent's graveyard from the game. If no cards are in that graveyard, flip Grave Robber or Nezumi Grave Robber. Its flip side is Night Eyes, the Desecrator. You may pay, or it is a 4/2 rat wizard. It lost rogue and gained wizard. Weird. Sorry. You may pay 4 of any color and a black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Overall, I think this is a pretty mid commander. However, if you can get infinite black mana, you can basically get rid of every single card in target player's graveyard, and then flip this, and then revive every single card in every other player's graveyard. And in that scenario, it's a A tier commander. But on average, I'm going to say it's a C tier commander. Next up, we have Nezumi Shortfang, a 1/1 rat rogue, again for 1 and a black. Then you have an ability, once again, for a 1 and a black. Tap it. Target opponent discards a card. Then if that player has no cards in their hand, flip Nezumi Shortfang. When it flips, it becomes Stab Whisker, the Odious. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player loses 1 life for each card fewer than 3 in his or her hand. This is a pretty mediocre commander. Overall, I would rate this probably a D. Next up, we have probably one of the weirdest looking creatures of all time. This is Cezanne, Perverter of Truth. What truth is he perverting? I don't know. Let's find out. He is a 6/5 demon spirit for 5 mana, 3 of any color, and 2 black. And he says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player loses 2 life and draws 2 cards. What? A Perverter of Truth? That looks more like a group hug commander. Very funny, very interesting. Not very good, but very funny and very interesting. I'm sure you could, well, nowadays, you could build this basically as like a Nekuzar deck, but make it mono black. Back then, a player draws 2 cards, they draw into a piece of removal, they remove this, no one else gets to draw the 2 cards. I don't know, man. It's pretty bad. I think I'm gonna give this a D. Next up, we have Aki, Lava Runner. This creature is a 1/1 Goblin Warrior, and it has haste. It also says, whenever Aki Lava Runner deals damage to an opponent, flip it. Its flip side is Talk Talk, Volcano Born. It is a 2/2 Goblin Shaman with protection from red. If a red source would deal damage to a player, it deals that much damage plus 1 to a player instead. Overall, oh, also, forgot to mention, it's 4 mana, 3 of any color and 1 red. Pretty bad, to be honest. Because I don't want to give it F, but it might be. Nah, screw it. No, I'm gonna be nice. I give it D. Next up, we have Ben, Aki Hermit. This is a 1/1 Goblin Shaman for 4 mana, 2 of any color, and 2 red. This ugly-ass boy has the ability to tap Ben, Aki Hermit, and it deals that much damage to target attacking creature equal to the number of untapped mountains you control. So the whole plan of this deck is to have as many untapped mountains as possible all the time, but somehow still be able to cast enough spells to not just be overrun. I'm gonna give him an F. Next up, we have Brothers Yamakaze. Yeah, boy. This is a 2/1 human samurai with Bushido 1 for 3 mana. Okay? 2 of any color and 1 red. Like I said, it has Bushido 1, so if it becomes blocked or is blocking, you get +1/+1 until in turn. If there are exactly 2 permanents named Brothers Yamazaki in play, the legend rule does not apply to them. Each other creature named Brothers of Yamazaki gets +2/+2 and haste. F. Not good. Next up, we have one of the greatest commanders ever made, so much so that it is still played in CDH today, which is disgusting. The creature I'm discussing is none other than Godo, Bandit Warlord. It is a unassuming 3/3 for 5 of any color and 1 red. This human barbarian is disgusting. It says, when Godo Bandit Warlord comes into play, you may search your library for an equipment card and put it into play. If you do, shuffle your library. Whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it, and all samurais you control after this phase get an additional combat phase. Why is he so gross? Well, let me put it here. You tutor for any equipment. Any. Okay? You go get Helm of the Host. You equip Helm of the Host to Godo. Automatically, you have infinite combat steps. This is disgusting. Everyone knows the combo, and everyone's going to know how to stop you. But if you can get it off early and quickly, you might be able to outpace your opponents and win the game. This is why it is played in CEDH. Godo, as much as I don't want to, you get God tier. This is Initiate of Blood. A 2/2 Ogre Shaman for 4 mana, 3 of any color and 1 red. It has the ability, tap Initiate of Blood, deals 1 damage to target creature that was dealt damage this turn. When that creature is put into the graveyard this turn, flip Initiate of Blood. It flips into Goka, the Unjust, a 4/4 Ogre Shaman. He basically just gets buffer. He has the ability tap Goka the Unjust, deal 4 damage to target creature that is dealt damage this turn. Literally just gets buffer. F. Next up, we have one of the best commanders ever made, and here's why. This is Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker, a 2/2 Goblet Shaman for 5 mana, 2 of any color and 3 red. This legendary creature has haste. Cool. Hopefully it doesn't have a broken tap ability or anything. Oh wait, it does! It has tap. Put a creature token into play that's a copy of target non-legendary creature you control. That creature token has haste. Sacrifice it at the end of turn. Why is this broken, you may ask? Well, because cards like Combat Celebrant or any of the other cards that go infinite with Kiki-Jiki exist. Basically, anything that allows you to untap Kiki-Jiki and create infinite of whatever was just freaking untapping Kiki-Jiki makes you win. Because guess what? They have haste. Which means every time you tap Kiki-Jiki, one enters, it untaps Kiki-Jiki. Kiki-Jiki taps to make another one. Guess what? All the tokens have haste. It's crazy. You go to combat. You swing at your opponent with infinite, whatever the hell you just made copies of infinite times. It's crazy. You win. God tier commander. Next up, we have Kumano, Master Yamabushi. A 4/4 human shaman for 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 red. This human shaman has the ability to pay 1 of any color and 1 red, and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Then if a creature dealt damage by Kamunu this turn would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. So if you can create infinite red mana with any of the goblin combos or any infinite combos in red, and create infinite red mana, you basically just remove, you can either be a dick and just remove everyone's stuff and say pass the turn, or you can kill everyone instantly. I give this S tier. Next up, we have Myojin of Infinite Rage. This 7/4 spirit costs 10 mana, 7 of any color, and 3 red. When it comes into play, if it is cast from your hand, it comes in with a divinity counter. If it has a divinity counter, it has indestructible. You may remove a divinity counter to destroy all lands. This is a C tier commander. Because if you are able to get it into your hand and then cast it from your hand, you can just destroy all lands. Hey, Editor Dylan here. I forgot to do Ryusi, the Fallen Star. This 5/5 legendary dragon costs 6 mana. It has flying, and it says when Ryusi, the Fallen Star is put into a graveyard from play, it deals 5 damage to each creature without flying. I'm gonna give this a D. Alright, cool. Back to the regular video. Next up, we have Shimatsu, the Blood Cloaked. This 0/0 costs 4 mana, 3 of any color, and a red, and it is a demon spirit. As Shimatsu, the Blood Cloak, comes into play, sacrifice any number of permanents. It comes into play with that many +1/+1 counters on it. F. Next up, we have one of the funniest commanders that's ever been made. This is Zozu, the Punisher, a 2/2 Goblin Warrior for 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 red. It says whenever a land comes into play, Zozu the Punisher deals 2 damage to that land's controller. This is just a really funny commander, and it does really funny things, and that's why it's getting the really funny rating of A. Next up, we have Azusa, Lost But Seeking. This 3 mana commander, for 2 of any color and a green, is a 1/2 human monk, and she has the ability that you may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. It's just a ramp, that's all it is, so for that, it gets an A. Next up, we have Badoka Gardener. This 2/1 human monk costs 2 mana, 1 of any color, and 1 green. You may tap it to put a land card from your hand into play. If you control 10 or more lands, flip it. Guess what it flips into? It flips into another human monk. Okay, this one is a 3/3. And it says pay 4 and 2 green. Tap it. Put an XX green elemental creature token into play, where X is the number of lands you control. F. Next up, we have Dosen, the Fallen Leaf, a 2/2 human monk for 1 and 2 green. And it says players can play spells only during their own turns. It is a stacks piece. Basically means instants can go f themselves. Overall, this is a pretty mean commander, and is really mean in the 99. I give it an A. Next up, we have Iname, Life Aspect. This is the opposite of Death Aspect. This 4/4 spirit costs 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 green. It says when Iname Life Aspect is put into the graveyard from play, you may remove Iname Life Aspect from the game. If you do, return any number of target spirit cards from your graveyard to your hand. It's fine. It's as good as the other one. I don't remember what I gave the other one, so we're going to give this one a C. Next up, we have Jogan, the Rising Star, a 5/5 Dragon Spirit for 6 mana, 3 of any color, and 3 green. And it has flying. And it says, when this is put into the graveyard from play, you may distribute 5+1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures. I'm gonna give this one a big fat D. Next up, we have Kodama of the North Tree. Kodama is a 6/4 spirit for 2 of any color and 3 green. Most Kodamas are broken, so let's read this one. It has Trample, and Kodama of the North Tree can be the target of spells or abilities. This is pretty mediocre. I give it a C. I don't know, that hurts giving it a C. I give it a D. I change it. D, editor, D. It's a D. Listen, D. Next up, we have Kodama of the South Tree. Kodama of the South Tree is a 4/4 spirit for 4 mana, 2 of any color, and 2 green. And it says whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 against trample until end of turn. If you build your deck to be Spirit Tribal or Arcane Spell Tribal or both Tribal, this is a pretty decent commander. However, if you don't, it's really bad. So I'm going to put it, if you do build it, I say it's an A. If you don't build it, I say it's an F. So I'm going to put it right in the middle and say C. This is a C tier commander. Next up, we have Myojin of Life's Web. It is an 8/8 spirit for 9 mana, 6 of any color, and 3 green. If you play this from your hand, and not just with a Divinity counter. Divinity counter means as indestructible. You may remove the Divinity counter to put any number of creature cards from your hand into play. That is absolutely disgusting. If you can get that out, it's an A. If you can't, which is more likely option, it's an F, along with all the others. So I'm going to give it a D, to be nice. Next up, we have Orochi Egg Watcher. This 3 mana 1/1 snake shaman costs 2 of any color and a green. Then it has 2 of any color and a green. Tap it, put a 1/1 green snake creature token into play. If you control 10 or more creatures, flip it. It flips into Shidaku, Brood Mistress. It's a 3/3 snake shaman that has pay a green. Sacrifice a creature. Target creature gets +3/+3 until the turn. I'm giving it an F, because honestly, it's really bad and only creates 1 snake. Next up, we have Sachi, daughter of Seshiru. Yep. She's a 1/3 snake shaman for 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 of any color and 2 green. Man, I can really speak. She says other snakes you control get +0/+1, and then shamans you control have tap, add 2 green to your mana pool. She's not great, but she's also not bad. I'm gonna give her a C. Next up, we have Seshiru, the Anointed. This 3/4 snake monk costs 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 green. Other snakes you control get +2/+2. Whenever a snake you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. She's a much better commander than Sachi, so I'm going to have to give her a C. If you build Snake Tribal, you can either choose her or Sachi, but I think she's better because she allows you to draw cards while Sachi only gives you mana. Next up, we have Shisato, Whispering Hunter. This 2/2 Snake Warrior costs 4 mana, 3 of any color, and a green. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a snake. Well, that's not very good. And she says whenever she deals combat damage to a player, that player skips his or her next on tap step. I'm going to give this a D. Rounding out the snake family, we have Sasuke, son of Seshiro, a 3/4 Snake Warrior for 4, 2 of any color, and 2 green. And he says, other snakes you control have +1/+0. And whenever a warrior you control deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature at the end of combat. So it gives all your warriors death touch, technically. It's not really good. I would recommend running his mother or the other one instead. I give this a D. Next up, we have Frankie Peanuts. Frankie Peanuts is a 2/3 elf rogue for 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 white. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may ask target player a yes or no question. If you do, that player answers the question truthfully and abides by that answer, if able, until end of turn. I'll be honest, out of all of the uncommanders, this one's not great. It is funny, but not great. So we're going to give this one F. Next up, we have Johnny Combo Player. This 1/1 human gamer costs 2 of any color and 2 blue. You may pay 4 mana of any color, search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, then shuffle your library. So for 4 mana, and you don't have to wait for your next turn to do this, you may tutor up any card from your deck. Have infinite mana, you may tutor every card from your deck to your hand. Pretty good. I'm going to give this God tier. Next up, we have Richard Garfield, PhD. This 2/2 human designer costs 5 mana, 3 of any color, and 2 blue. It says you may play cards as though they were other magic cards of your choice with the same mana cost. Mana cost includes color. You can't choose the same card twice. And yeah, he doth spake, let there be magic. I'm gonna give him God tier. He's really good. As long as you know your magic cards, you can literally play any spell that's in blue ever. So yeah, so any blue spell ever or any artifact ever. So yeah, just God tier. Gonna round us out for the year 2004. This is a pretty disgusting year, to be honest. We had a lot of God tier commanders and just a lot of powerful commanders overall, but as we know, for every commander that is God tier, there is 8 shitty F tiers and D tiers. So yeah, that's it for 2004. And with that, we're going to end off the video here. I hope you really enjoyed 2003 and 2004. Next video, we will for sure tackle 2005, maybe 2006 if I can gather up the courage to do it. I once again apologize that my co-host Keldon could not be here. He really hates making these, and as we all know, Keldon refuses to do anything he doesn't like to do, so I'll probably be alone for the rest of the series. Anyway, guys, I love you all. I'm Anok from Anok Gaming, and you're watching, or have watched, however you'd like to consider it, Legends of Legends. Goodbye! What a long-ass video. I swear on my life.